Welcome back to another deep dive. So Canada Day 2025 is getting closer, and we thought we'd look at national pride, but maybe from a different angle, like through something small, intricate even.
Watch.
A watch, yeah. It sounds a bit unusual, maybe, but can an object like that really capture, the spirit of a nation, its
hmm
history, even how it feels today?
That's exactly what we want to get into today. We're going to explore this specific timepiece, the 2025 Marathon Canada Day Limited Edition. It really seems to act as this fascinating container for Canadian identity, its history, and, like you said, even some current geopolitical feelings.
Right. And we're drawing this from a pretty detailed review of the watch itself.
Yeah, we'll unpack the design choices, those historical nods, the bigger cultural stuff packed into just one piece of craftsmanship. Hopefully you'll start seeing everyday things maybe a little bit differently by the end.
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's focus on the star here. The Marathon Vernon ADANAC Red Maple watch. Now, Marathon, they're based in Toronto, right? That's right, Toronto-based. And they have this tradition, yeah, releasing special watches for Canada Day, July 1st.
But this 2025 one, the reference is WW1940SS1601 ADANAC Red Maple Navigator Automatic. It feels like they're pushing that whole Canadian pride idea further this time.
They definitely are. What's really striking is how deep the symbolism goes right from the start. It's built around celebrating a big one, the 60th anniversary of Canada's maple leaf flag. You know, the red and white one everyone recognizes.
60 years. And that's huge because that flag replaced the old Canadian red ensign.
Exactly. Which, looked a bit like the Australian flag, still had the Union Jack on it. So 1965 was really this moment of clear, distinct Canadian identity taking shape visually.
A clear identity, that's one thing. But then you mentioned the name ADANAC. That's another layer, right?
Wow.
That's going on there. Because, it's just Canada spelled backwards.
It is, and it's such a clever, almost hidden detail. Marathon used ADAC way back. It was a discrete trademark when they were mostly a military supplier, for the Allied forces.
Okay, so not obvious.
Not at all. It was their quiet way of saying made in Canada, basically, without flagging it explicitly. And while this new 2025 Navigator has Marathon clearly on the dial,
Right.
that ADNAC name is there, but it's this nice inked engraving on the side of the case. It's a very deliberate nod back to the company's history, their Canadian roots. Something for those who know the history.
A nice touch for collectors, probably.
Definitely.
And those historical echoes, they don't stop there. On the back of the watch, the case back, it says True Northwest, 1867. Now, 1867, that's Confederation, Canada's founding. But True North, that feels more current, doesn't it? It's from the Anthem, O Canada.
It is True North, strong and free.
Right.
And, connecting that to today, True North isn't just a line in a song anymore. It's become part of the current Canadian spirit. You hear it chanted at hockey games, other sports events. It's like a shorthand for national pride.
Really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of taken on a life of its own. It really seems to resonate with people now as this rallying cry.
But the story behind this watch, it gets even more specific, right? We learned that Marathon's leader, Mitchell Wine, actually mentioned a direct inspiration.
Yeah, this was interesting. He said it was partly inspired by a sort of new wave of Canadian patriotism coming out of what he termed more combative political discussions with the U.S.
Specifically mentioning tariffs, I think.
Exactly. Tariff negotiations was the phrase used. So this watch, it almost becomes this subtle statement, doesn't it, about Canada standing its ground, pride in its sovereignty, its character, that desire not to be walked all over.
Wow, so it's not just celebratory, it's got a bit of resolve.
Exactly. It's not just a pretty object. It's carrying this quiet message of, national resolve. Think about it. A watch, something you wear every day, suddenly has this layer of meaning tied to current events, to diplomacy.
It's a form of cultural soft power, maybe.
I think so. A wearable assertion of identity without needing some big political speech. It really captures a moment maybe where national pride is being looked at again because of these external pressures. Makes you think, what else out there carries these kinds of messages?
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does all this feeling, this inspiration, translate into the watch itself, the design? You mentioned it's based on their Navigator model.
Right. For the first time for a Canada Day edition, it's based on the Navigator, specifically the SSNAV-D Automatic.
And it's a step up for the Navigator line.
Yeah, seems so. It's got this elevated construction, a really solid sandblasted steel case, and it houses a proper Swiss-made automatic movement inside. They're positioning it as the Navigator in its most elite form to date. quoting Marathon there.
But still reasonably priced, apparently.
Yeah, they seem to have balanced that quite well.
And visually, I mean, it shouts Canada, right? You got that big applied red maple leaf.
Very prominent, yeah. On the white dial, right under the 12, instantly recognizable.
And the bezel, that's red too.
It is. A distinct red aluminum insert for the bezel, which rotates both ways. And that's another versus the previous automatic Navigator, the blue yonder, used blue. So this red is really specific to this edition.
That red bezel must really pop.
It does. And it ties in with the seconds hand, which is also red.
Okay.
And I thought the detail on the seconds hand was particularly neat. The counterweight, the little bit sticking out the other end.
Yeah.
It's shaped subtly, like the back end of an arrow shaft, the fletching. The review suggested it's this little hint that, Canada might have charm, but it also has, quote, bite.
Bite. I like that. That's clever. Understated strength.
Exactly. And speaking of subtle details, there's another new touch just for this watch.
What's that?
There's a little maple leaf motif actually on the crown now.
Oh, really? Not just on the dial.
Right. Previous Marathon watches might have had the leaf on the dial, but putting it on the crown itself is unique to this ADANAC red maple model. It's another one of those small, thoughtful things that makes it feel special.
These little details really add up. Okay, so beyond the looks and the symbolism, the Navigator itself has a history, right, as a pilot's watch.
Absolutely. Its origins are in aviation, designed for exceptional legibility, which is key for pilots, and also built to handle big changes in air pressure you get when flying.
Does it look like a typical pilot watch?
It has its own look. Kind of unique, maybe a bit funky as the review put it, but it's the sort of design that grows on you. It's comfortable to wear, apparently, and quite attractive on the wrist.
So, practical specs. How does it actually wear? What are the dimensions?
Okay, so it's 41.5 millimeters wide. That's a pretty standard, robust size for this kind of watch. Not too huge, not too small.
And the case shape, you mentioned something earlier.
Right, it's asymmetrical. The right side, where the crown is, flares out a bit wider. That acts as a built-in crown guard, protecting it.
Smart. And thickness.
It's 11.5 millimeters thick, which is relatively slim for an automatic tool watch. And the lug-to-lug distance, that's the measurement across the wrist, is 48 millimeters. That usually means it fits a good range of wrist sizes.
Okay. And straps.
Standard 20 millimeter lug width, so finding other straps if you wanted would be easy.
And it sounds tough. How tough are we talking? Water resistance.
Pretty tough. It's rated water resistant to 100 meters. Plus, it has a screw-down crown, which helps seal it properly. And the crystal over the dial is flat sapphire.
Sapphire's good. Very scratch resistant.
Exactly. And it's got an anti-reflective coating on it, too, to cut down glare and keep it readable.
And what about reading it in the dark? Pilot watches need good lume.
Marathon's known for this. Like most of their watches, it uses tritium gas tubes. Tiny little glass tubes filled with tritium gas. They glow on their own constantly for years. No need to charge them with light. They're in the hands and at the hour markers.
Right. Tritium. Consistent glow, no fading overnight.
Precisely. Very practical for low light visibility.
Okay, so it's a robust, well-spec'd watch.
Yeah.
But the manufacturing story is interesting, too. You said Marathon's Canadian.
Based in Toronto, yes. But the watches themselves, they're actually produced in Switzerland.
Oh. Where in Switzerland?
In La Chaux-de-Fonds, which is, a major hub for Swiss watchmaking. Marathon has their own factory there.
So a Canadian watch celebrating Canada, but made in Switzerland. That feels different.
It does, doesn't it? And it sort of plays into this idea of modern Canadian identity. The review framed it in the context of Canada being a, quote, proudly globalist country.
Meaning?
Meaning national pride isn't solely tied to everything being made within Canada. Unlike, say, the traditional idea of Swiss pride, where Swiss-made often implies everything happening domestically.
So for this watch, Canadian identity is more about the design, the values, the company's origins, not necessarily the physical place of assembly.
Exactly. It suggests that Canadian identity, in this context at least, can embrace global partnerships and manufacturing. It's an interesting take.
It really is. Okay, so inside this Canadian-designed, Swiss-made watch, what's the engine? The movement.
It's running a Swiss-made Sellita caliber SW200-1 automatic movement, but it's a modified version.
Modified how?
They've added some extra shock protection, which makes sense for a watch with military and pilot roots. You want it to be durable.
Makes sense. And the basics of the SW200.
It's a well-known, reliable workhorse movement. It operates at 4 hertz, which means the seconds hand has that nice smooth sweep, and it gives you about 2 days of power reserve.
So you can take it off Friday night and it's still running Monday morning.
Pretty much, yeah. It also displays the time, obviously, and has a date window tucked away between the 4 and 5 o'clock markers.
And that bezel we talked about, the red one, it rotates both ways. What's the use case there?
Yeah, bidirectional. It's pretty handy, actually. You can use it as a simple 60-minute timer, just line up the marker with the minute hand. Or, because it moves both ways, you can also use it to track a second time zone pretty easily. Align the bezel to the hour difference.
Ah, okay. So useful for travel or timing things.
Definitely adds some practical utility beyond just looking good.
Speaking of looking good, what about the strap it comes on?
It comes on a NATO-style strap. The review mentioned it has this fashionable mix of colors, red, tan, and gray, designed to complement the watch itself.
Sounds like it completes the whole package aesthetically.
Seems like it, yeah.
Now, you mentioned it's a limited edition. How limited?
Quite limited. Marathon is only producing 500 pieces of this specific ADANAC red maple watch.
Only 500, so it's definitely exclusive.
Very much so. It really feels like, the epitome of a proudly Canadian watch, even if it isn't actually built there, as we discussed.
Right, that whole globalist angle.
And this kind of special edition, it does something else for Marathon too, right? It shows off a more playful side of the brand.
Beyond their usual very serious military spec stuff.
Exactly. While at the same time, it probably helps bring attention to their core lines, the watch is actually intended for serious use, like search and rescue. It's smart marketing, really.
Broadens the appeal. Okay, and the bottom line, for anyone listening who's now quite intrigued by this piece,
The price.
the price is listed at $1,280 US.
180 USD.
Okay, for a limited edition Swiss automatic with these features, it seems pretty competitive in today's market.
Right. So, as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, I hope it's become clear how even something like a watch, this engineered object, can hold so much. National history, a changing sense of identity, cultural values, even echoes of current events.
It really is amazing how deliberate details can tell such a big story, isn't it?
Absolutely. And hopefully exploring this watch gives you, our listeners, maybe a new way to look at everyday objects. Thinking about the choices behind them, how design and history and national spirit can all intersect, maybe you'll have a few aha moments yourself.
Yeah, that's the hope, that understanding the why behind a product deepens the appreciation. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. We live in this super interconnected world, right? What other things around us, maybe even things in our own homes, could be telling these kinds of subtle stories? Stories about cultural identity or historical pride, or even those shifts in global politics.
That's a great question. How might these seemingly ordinary items be quietly shaping how we see the world? Something to think about.